Was born at a very young age.
Were you born a poor black child in southern Mississippi?
Yeah, one of two children. I was born first, 12 minutes before Uncle Ralph. He said it was less than that. I was a breech birth.
Did you know he was there?
If
You were
anybody,
breech?
if anybody doesn't know what a breech birth is, my father thought he had triplets because both buns came out first. And actually, we were the first two children in the family to be born in the hospital, Women's Medical Center in Philadelphia. All the other children was born at home. And we got into a lot of trouble at home. Around the two boys, we tore everything apart. We gave my mother's fur coat a haircut. She didn't like that. And eventually we went to school. First grade, it was somewhat traumatic. We had to walk to school. We had to cross a semi-busy street, and it was altogether about half a mile to school. And because it was a parochial school, it was all nuns that taught. Yeah, if you ever saw a nun, it looks like a penguin with a lady inside. And it was Immaculate Heart of Mary nuns. And we had those nuns for all 8 years of grade school. First and second grade were combined. We had minimum class size for any grade was 55, so we had over 100 students in first grade. Which, we didn't have any kindergarten. We couldn't afford it. Only the public school kids could do that. The Catholic school kids couldn't do it. But anyway, we got a good education, and we learned how to write Palmer method, nice, fancy writing, and we learned spelling. We had spelling bees, and we constantly drilled on penmanship. The first couple of grades. We had to learn how to write so we could take our notes. And then we went up the line all the way through to the 8th grade. Somewhere in the process, Ralph and I liked to defend the girls that the boys were picking on. I don't know why, we thought it was the right thing to do. And for that, usually there was a gang of boys who would work us over, or try. And one guy's name was McCaffrey, and his sister was in our class, and he was in a year ahead or a year behind, I forget which. But he was the bully, and he had his henchmen running around with him. Well, one day I caught him, and he didn't have any henchmen with him. And I let him have a right cross. And that was the end of him picking on me. His sister asked me why I did that to her brother. I said, ask him. Anyway, we didn't have any trouble after that. I think I told the story about Mr. Heenan, the young boy in our class, who was the class clown, misfit. And Sister Miriam Jane was the 8th grade, and she was a little Irish lady with very red complexion, ruddy. And Mr. Heenan jumped out the window one day after she yelled at him and ran across the lawn outside the window and up the street. And the good nun hiked up her skirts, jumped out the window, and chased him for 2 blocks and caught him. Brought him back by the ear. But I don't think kids get any real discipline anymore, not in any kind of school, not even Catholic school. From high school we went to, or from grade school we graduated, and we went to Northeast Catholic High School.
You
But
have
we
to
had
tell more about you and Uncle Ralph when you were little.
little. Well, we got into a lot of problems. So, as usual, brothers, we had different friends. I had a friend named Danny Farmer, and we did things together. And he had a friend named Bobby Brighton, and they did things together. We didn't do that much together unless we were home. But we got into all kinds of things, mostly electrical. We were fixing TVs and radios and rewiring houses when we were 10 or 12 years old. And the druggist, Mr. Pennock, had an old black and white TV, and it wasn't working, so we did our usual job. We took it home. We vacuum cleaned the interior. We tested all the tubes, and we put 1 or 2 new tubes in that we bought from him. And he had a little dispenser cabinet that you could buy tubes. Well, anyway, we fixed his TV, and the greatest thing we did was clean the inside of the glass. In those days, you didn't have a tube right up against as the face of the picture. You had to put the tube behind a glass window because there was a fear of breakage of the glass tube. So the picture got a lot brighter because we cleaned it, the glass. Sounds like cleaning the windshield in a car. And anyway, he gave us $25 for doing that.
Wow.
That was a pretty good job. We worked pretty hard on it. Yeah. And then Mrs. Kelly lived about, let's see, about 3 or 4 doors down from my house. And she had a problem. She needed an electrical outlet next to her fireplace. So, and nobody could get in because the old-time heaters were so big and the pipes were so big that you couldn't get in near the wall to do anything unless you were a little kid, and we were. So we crawled up in there and chipped out a hole in the side of the fireplace, put an electrical outlet box in there, threw some BX cable in, brought it down, hooked it up, and away we went with an electrical outlet. So we got by with that. We were always good for that kind of stuff. We had to fiddle with everything: radios, TVs.
Okay, what was your favorite radio show?
Oh, radio shows, we had a lot of them. We didn't have a TV until I was about 10 or 11, but we weren't allowed to watch it late anyway. But we had a radio in our room, and we could listen to the Thin Man and the Fat Man and the Creaky Door was one. 3 or 4 others. Fibber McGee and Molly was one. And Charlie McCarthy was a good one. Yeah. And earlier than that, before we went to bed, we come home from school and we could turn on the big console radio and listen to Superman and Pappaw and Cassidy and who else? Lone Ranger, of course. And then there were some other good shows as well. Radio was great. In the morning, you could hear the Breakfast Clubbers, and they had a little song they would sing. And Arthur Godfrey used to be on a lot on TV and radio, and he advertised Chesterfield cigarettes. That's what sold his program. I think he finally gave it up. But he had a ranch and an airplane, and he'd fly back and forth from wherever he was giving his shows, California or someplace. But a lot of those shows got carried over to TV as we grew up. Lone Ranger in particular. Batman and Robin got carried over. The Green Hornet You ever hear the Green Hornet? He got carried over. And there were a lot of good shows. There was a Hallmark Hall of Fame years ago. You want to watch a good show on TV? That was before all of these commercials. They used to have commercials, but not as many and as long as they have today. The best thing we did, Ralph and I, used to go over and take a bus, E-bus, and we get off on City Line Avenue by WCAU TV station. Now we used to go in and watch a show for Chief Halftown. He was an American Indian, and he dressed up in a full war bonnet, you know, a lot of feathers, and he would have a cartoon show and stories, and he would introduce the shows, and then he would do some of the commercials live. And the biggest hit Ralph and I had was we got to make some chocolate milk. I forget what it was now, but we went out and got the milk in little cartons and brought it in, made up. So and we helped them make it on TV. So we got in the show, helping them make I don't know, Bosco. I think it was Bosco chocolate drink. So that was our debut as on TV on Chief Halftown. That was an interesting experience. Mostly as young boys, I had an older brother, Ben, and he would always teach me how to play football. Now he was, if I remember when he got into high school, he was over 6 feet and over 200 pounds, and I was just a skinny kid. And what he would do, he would teach me how to be a tackling dummy. And I'd wind up getting tackled. But as I grew older, I got to realize all the ways in which a young average man can tear down a big guy, mostly by knocking his legs out from under him. Because that'll do it every time. I don't care how big you are. If you get your legs knocked out from under you, you're going down. So he used to teach us football and baseball and stuff like that. And I had a friend, Michael Pennock, the druggist order. I told you we fixed his dad's TV. He had an uncle. He had an uncle Milty that would watch the store and take care of the thing for a while. And they were Jewish, so he was trying to be kosher. Now, around Easter time, we had a lot to do because I would sneak him a little bit of baked ham, and he would sneak me fried matzah. And his uncle finally caught on and told him not to eat the ham anymore because he was Jewish. But one of the great honors I had with his family, I was a little Catholic boy and got invited over to a Seder. I don't know if you've ever been to one, but they invited me in to sit down and have this Passover meal with them. It's the same Passover meal that Jesus made. So I got to eat with the yarmulke on and listen to the Hebrew prayers, and it was quite an occasion. And I was very thankful to him for sharing that with me. But there were other friends we had that were Jewish as well, other kids. The neighborhood was fairly well off. One of the friends that we had was Biffy Holleran. And his dad owned a company called Conduit and Foundation Corporation, and we would go over there to play, and it was a huge house. They had room for everything. Everybody had their own bedroom. There was an exercise room. They had cooks. They had housekeepers, and they had a sun porch on the side of the house, and they had a TV out there. And we'd go over there every day when we were younger, before we had a TV, before we had a color TV. They had a color TV because they could afford it. And we'd go over there and we'd watch Howdy Doody. So we'd go over to see Howdy Doody with them. And I had a couple of meals over there with them too. But they were, above and beyond what my families could afford. They all went to private schools and they all went to private colleges and so forth. But they were good folks, and they always invited us over. I don't know what else you want to know, Jane.
Mom, what else do you want to know?
I was just gonna bring you in here and let you sing. Will
Sing?
you sing, Danny boy? I'll just pretend like I'm playing and you can pretend like you're singing.
Where am I going to do that?
At the piano.
At the piano?
I'm going to
Yes.
stop it.
On. Okay, it is now recording. Fourth go at Danny boy. It's getting kind of hot in here.
That's all right.
Go ahead and set up right. Okay.
I think.
Ready?
Oh, Danny boy, the pipes are calling. From glen to glen, and down the mountainside. The summer's gone, and
insurance pose like that. I had to rewrite the whole thing. That was beautiful. Okay, Mom, come sing.
It's in a little lower
Let's
key.
sing something else and you can sing something with Mom. Mom, come in here and sing. You want to sing
She's
a
singing
hymn?
better than I do now.
Try sleeping on. Since we did. How about this one?
What's
You know
that?
this one?
Adam
Oh,
Apple wants
yeah.
out of the bathtub.
Do I have all of it?
That's 3, 4, 1.
She went.
So there's
When your sweet lilting laughter's like some fairy song, and you I think of right as can be. You should laugh of all harm, the other turns spoiled, and you smile, smile on me. When I singing like a 100-year-old man.
No, you're not. Singing like a 60-year-old man who just had a stroke.